Meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees called to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abraham?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Uhrig?
Yes.
Kish, all present. Okay, I have the July 12th Amherst Township meeting minutes from the regular meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees. The meeting was called to order at 7:03 p.m. by Lynch. Pledge to the flag, roll call, Abraham, Lynch, and Kish were present. Uhrig was absent. Also in attendance, Case Marsh, L. Ashley, G. Lynch, R. Bechter, R. Cerrone, and S. D'Ambrosio. 7-122, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Move to approve the June 28th, 2022 special meeting minutes as corrected. All ayes. 7-222, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Move to approve the June 28th, 2022 regular meeting minutes as read. All ayes. 7-322, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Move to approve the financial reports and payment of items on the payment listing, which includes ARPA fund expenditures as specified in documents provided by Fiscal Officer. All ayes. Fiscal Officer Kish noted that the second round of ARPA funds have been deposited, but it is not cleared into our account. It will probably be in tomorrow. Trustee Lynch noted that since we have taken the standard allowance, we do not have to go through separate resolutions for each expenditure and that the verbiage will remain as above until the ARPA funds are expired. Trustee Lynch also noted that with the second tranche, Amherst Township received $605,039 in total ARPA funds. 7-422, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Move to approve the Township 2023 annual tax budget of estimated revenue and expenditure appropriation per revised code section 5705.28, adoption of tax budget as prescribed by the Budget Commission of Lorain County, Ohio. All ayes. Fiscal Officer Kish noted that we did receive the Otarma Moore grant of $500. Trustee Lynch noted correspondence received from the Lorain County Engineer's Office that they are currently in the process of collecting survey data and completing environmental studies for the replacement of the Oberlin Road Bridge located approximately 0.55 miles north of State Route 113. Trustee Lynch noted he would be meeting with Commissioner Matt Lundy this Thursday and will be discussing 2 Lorain County ARPA grant applications. One application is a joint application with Elyria Township in the amount of $241,718 to cover the cost of property owners mandated to connect to new county sewers. The other application requests the use of $269,715 in ARPA funds versus tax incremental financing, or TIF, to pay for the extension of the Lorain County sanitary sewer from the Hampshire Farm subdivision northerly along Oberlin Road to State Route 2 overpass, and $40,000 in TIF funds as a partial match for the OPWC grant to pay for a $200,000 resurfacing project of Oberlin Road from Middle Ridge to North Ridge. There were no audience concerns. Under reports for zoning, 1 permit this month, 1 new home this month, for a total of 15 year-to-date. On August 2nd, 2022, the Zoning Commission will meet regarding sandstone. Road, Park, and Cemetery. Road Superintendent Smarsh reported that trimming and mowing in the parks and cemeteries has slowed down with the dry weather. Currently working on 2 trees for removal from the park. The street sweeper came through in Hidden Valley. Potholes are down to a minimum and currently into catch basin replacement. 7-5-22, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Authorization to enter into Ohio Public Works Commission project agreement and award bid for South Dewey Road, TR-105, Park Avenue to North Ridge Road resurfacing project. South side of Park/Ackerman to North Ridge, resurface length equals 3,830 feet, area equals 631 square yards. Funded with OPWC Round 36 grant and loan funds and Township/City of Amherst funds. CI15Z, C16Z, all ayes. Township Administrator Ashley reported working on catching up with permit logs. There were 0 transient vendor permits issued, but there have been a few calls reporting individuals going around Hidden Valley. Been keeping up on Park Pavilion reservations. Under complaints, we did receive 2 complaints regarding dust issues from the Sandstone development. Trustee Lynch noted discussion had with the developers and their response of the clearing being completed this week, so hopefully the issue will be resolved with the timing. Complaints are being handled by the designated individual. Under new business, Trustee Lynch noted packets contain 2 resolutions, one under zoning regarding the fee schedule for residential accessory buildings and residential new construction and additions. The second was regarding amendments to the policy manual. 7622, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, moved for the following policy manual amendment: fee schedule for residential accessory buildings to be same as residential new construction and additions, all ayes. 7722, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, moved for the amendment of Amherst Township Policy Manual effective immediately, all ayes. Trustee Lynch provided an update on railroad quiet zones brought up from a resident that lives on Dewey and Ackerman roads. Another resident has joined forces with him, and they have met with both Mayor Costello and Trustee Lynch to discuss this. These 2 gentlemen are putting together a presentation that they will present to the city of Amherst and also to the township potentially at the next meeting. Trustee Lynch has been doing research on quiet zones, and some solutions can be very expensive. Trustee Lynch wanted to bring it forth to his fellow trustees so they were aware of the very preliminary discussions had so far. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, July 26, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. 7822, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, to adjourn at 8:03 p.m. All ayes.
Are there any changes or corrections to the July 12th meeting minutes?
Yeah. Can you what?
Any changes?
Oh, any changes? I thought you said.
No.
Can
Have
I
a
make
motion
a
to approve?
change?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as read.
I'll second.
Abraham?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, then we have the July 14th emergency meeting minutes of the Amherst Township Trustees. The meeting was called to order at 11:30 a.m. by Chairman Lynch. Roll call: Abraham and Lynch were present. Euring and Kish were absent. Also in attendance, L. Ashley and G. Lynch. The emergency meeting held to consider management authority and rental payment history for Board of Trustees property at 7516 Oberlin Road. They suspended the reading of the minutes from the prior meeting. 7922, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, moved to authorize the township administrator to take all actions necessary regarding the management of the township property and residential structure located at 7516 Oberlin Road, Elyria, Ohio. All ayes. 71022, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, to adjourn at 11:41 a.m. All ayes.
Okay, with no change or corrections, I'll make a motion to approve the July 14th meeting minutes as read.
I'll second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Okay, then you have the credit card statement in front of you with all receipts. Accounted for.
And this is a light one since we've just had a recent meeting. And are there any questions on the credit card statement, the bills or
No,
financials?
I have none.
Okay, then I'm going to make first 2 motions. The first one is to approve the financial reports and the payments, the items on the payment listing, which may include or might include ARPA fund expenditures as specified in the documents provided by the fiscal officer.
I will
Is that for the
second
bills?
that motion.
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
And I'll make a motion that the credit card account transaction detail has been reviewed for policy and the card statement is accepted as presented, subject to investigation.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else there, Chris?
Not really anything of importance or things that need to be brought up.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. I know there's quite a few here that are here for the Railroad Quiet Zone presentation. But before we get into that, is there anybody here that's come with some other issue to bring before the trustees? If so, raise your hand. Okay, not seeing any. For Scott Falagi and Kurt Schaffhauser, not sure which one of you guys are going to go first. But these are two gentlemen from the city of Amherst, for those that may or may not know, that have brought this issue forward and have had discussions in the city of Amherst and Amherst Township on a very preliminary basis at this time. If there's any questions from anyone or comments afterwards, if you could please step up to the microphone on the stand there.
Okay, great. Thank you, and thanks to the trustees for having us, and to Mayor Costello for coming, and all of you.
Is it on now? Sorry about that. Hope you all heard what I said. My name's Scott Valagi. I live out on Dewey Road, and just to kind of give you all a little background on how this transpired, I went in to visit the mayor one day after driving through some adjoining cities, North Olmsted, Olmsted Township, North Ridgeville, Wellington, and noticing that they have quiet zones. And it occurred to me that this is something that probably should be looked into, and possibly could be a big win from a quality of life perspective for, at that time, the citizens of Amherst. I happen to be kind of a hybrid. My property straddles both Amherst and Amherst Township. So that kind of got the ball rolling, and ironically, I guess about a week or so later, Mayor, or 2 weeks, Kurt walks in, and he's on the west side of town, and he's been doing research for about 2 years. And Kurt is I will say this for him, he's a very accomplished NASA engineer, so his research is much more sophisticated than mine, as you'll see, but it does prove the point that there's a concern here that other cities have addressed in the interest of improving the quality of life and safety for their citizenry, and it's something that we're pleased to be able to present to you guys tonight. So we've had a couple of quick meetings with Neil and some meetings with the mayor as well. And this can be done very economically, and there's several different ways to do this, so there's a lot of misconceptions about how this has been done. But I'm going to jump into this. We're going to make it relatively quick. I'm not going to bore you with when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth and things like that. We'll get right to the meat of it here. Hopefully.
IT person over here, my wife.
You just do it manually? Can you do manually? Or with the mouse? Here we go. I do this right here.
There we go.
Okay. So, just to give you some information on the kind of the dynamic as it stands today, give or take 80 trains a day travel through Amherst and Amherst Township on the Norfolk Southern rail lines right behind us. That's every day, 365 days a year. Amherst has 3 grade level crossings, so Amherst is very fortunate that most of their crossings are elevated, as is Amherst Township with Middle Ridge. Amherst Township has 2 additional grade level crossings, providing an additional 200. So basically, you're looking at, based on the number of blasts that they're required, the horn blasts that they're required to signal at every crossing, you're looking at approximately 50,000 blasts a year in Amherst, 233,000, actually in 233,600 or so in the township. So the majority of Amherst and Amherst Township residents are within 1 mile of the horn sounding locations. So first and foremost, what we were concerned with in talking to the mayor and Mr. Lynch at the time was safety. Well, channelization devices are these devices that you see like on Route 58 in front of the Pure gas station. And what they're designed to do is prevent people from going around them. So channelization devices installed at the railroad crossings will reduce the likelihood of collisions, progressively building upon the crossing gate safety improvements added in the 1980s. So when they installed the gates in the 1980s, the incidents at the tracks went down considerably. What the channelization devices do is essentially create like a corral that you would see at a rodeo where the cars are in it, preventing them from going around the down gates, which is one of the leading causes of issues, even with gates being added. So trains, as far as the horns themselves, they're supposed to stay below 85 decibels roughly, is that correct?
No, they're supposed to be about that level.
About that, and they're considerably higher. So from a health standpoint, you've got hearing issues, you've got, more importantly, chronic noise exposure has been linked to sleep disturbance. A lot of the people that I've talked to you can't sleep with your windows open, you're being woken up at all different hours. So noise annoyance, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, stroke. Noise is also shown to impact cognitive performance, impaired attention, especially in children. So doing less well in school, things like that, because they're not sleeping as well. Next slide. Also, and there's some folks in this, there's some folks in this room that, myself being one of them, as the economy shifts from more people working at home versus at a specific location, 25 to 30% of the U.S. workforce will be working from home 1 or more days a week during and after the pandemic. So I know there are people that can't work with their windows open. Another one of the health issues is you want fresh air circulating through your house. People can't sleep at night with their windows open, things along those lines. So from a quality of life standpoint, the noise permeating into homes and offices causes interruptions at work, teleconferencing, local meetings, interrupts conversations, interrupts family activities. I've talked to people who would like to have weddings in their backyard. They're not going to be able to do that. Can't really even have conversations in their backyard. So, and given that the further out you go, obviously, the less that issue is, but there's a lot of that. So the quiet zone will make Amherst and Amherst Township a more attractive residential community. So last thing I'll say is I've got a couple of quotes here. The mayor of Wellington related to me that it was probably some of the best money they ever spent. I'll go over and pull the exact quote. And the village manager echoed that same sentiment. The folks in Olmsted Falls, the folks in North Ridgeville. So basically anywhere they've done this, the sentiment is that kind of like we would never be able to go back. People don't realize how bad it was until we took it away. So it certainly is worthy of consideration. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kurt. And Kurt's going to walk you through a little more of the technical data. And we're going to make this quick and then go to some questions.
Thanks, Scott. My name is Kurt Schalkhauser. I'm an Amherst resident on the extreme west edge of Amherst, over on the left side here. Although I'm far away, I think I'm very close to you folks in this common problem of trains. And as Scott said, I'd like to talk a little bit more about some of the technical things that are behind the scenes, what we've been studying, what we've been looking at as far as the train noise. Mayor Koslow, I'm not going to give you the same grueling hour-and-a-half presentation that you saw before. This is a truncated version. So anyway, as you can see here, this is a quick sketch of the city of Amherst and extending into the township. We have 3 primary crossings that Amherst has been concerned with. That's over at Cooper Foster Park Road, then we have Cross Road, then we have the city, and then we have this one over here at the edge of Dewey Road that's actually straddling to the township, and then of course Oberlin Road, which is right out front here, and then just off the page would be then West Ridge Road. The same tracks, they're very shiny tracks, they have lots of trains going up and down them, and you know the story on that. The culprit is not the trains themselves, it's the horns. This is a manufacturer's cut sheet of the standard horn that is put on top of locomotives. It is designed to be loud, and they've improved them over the years. They are very loud. And in fact, if you look at the specs, it says that this This horn assembly produces 143 decibels of sound. Sound is measured in decibels. 0 is no sound, and the higher the number, the louder things are. Remember the number 143 for now. These are designed to be heard for 2.5 miles. The manufacturer intends it to be this way. The problem is not the crossings, but it's the place where the horns are sounding for the crossings. For example, this is Dewey Road. Although the crossing is in the center, we've got a horn sounding location over here, a whistle sign, where the train sounds its horn there on the westbound track, and it sounds it over here on the eastbound track. And you can see we've got it that is very proximate to the Hidden Valley development. So there's lots of people that are hearing each one of these horn blasts. This is the crossings over on my side of town, over at Cooper Foster Park and Crossroads. Here, the railroad has bundled 2 crossings together, and so they have one horn sounding here, going westbound, and one is over here for eastbound, but there it sounds 8 blasts for the 2 crossings. And again, if you look up in the corner, that's Apple Orchard Estates, another highly populated area. You are here. This is Oberlin Road, not as densely populated, but the trains still come by, they still honk their horns at these locations and cause disturbance. If you look overall, the city of Amherst and Amherst Township, these are the locations, these are 1-mile radius rings. Remember, those horns are designed to be heard 2.5 miles. This is a conservative 1-mile radius ring. And you can see that a large portion of the population of Amherst and the township are within those 1-mile rings. These are the 2-mile rings. And stand out in the parking lot at the Meyer store someday and you can hear trains, train whistles. So again, a lot of people are affected by the sound of the train horns. The decibel levels we talked about. These are just scales that came off of various sites. Again, if you start at a low decibel level down at 10, 0, it's barely audible. It's kind of like a whisper. And the higher you get, the higher the number is, the louder the sound. You've got rock concerts and jet plane takeoff. On this particular scale, they use different examples. A whisper is at a 10, whereas a jackhammer is at 140. What's common to both of these is the magic number 85 dB. 85 dB is considered by the medical professionals and health and safety organizations as the maximum safe exposure limit. Above 85 decibels, you're going to have headaches, nausea, hearing damage. Now, I should point out to that, remember, what is that train horn putting out? It's 143. So let's go a little further. I had access to a high precision sound measuring device that's designed specifically for these types of measurements. I was able to set that up at various locations, at my house, at my neighbor's house, at the place in the backyard where he and I chat in the evenings. I set it up outside my bedroom window on the 2nd floor of my house. Various locations for various durations, various times of the day, night. I ran full 24-hour test periods. And the bottom line out of this is that the sound levels from these trains is well above the 85 decibel limit. I'm not going to bore you with this, but this is a 24-hour test, so the data from a 24-hour test. Starts over here at midnight on January 12th and extends through 3 a.m., noontime, into the evening, and then to the nighttime. The meter measures sound level. So this yellow line is it's measuring it's the sound, whether that's birds or street noise or whatnot. Where you see the purple lines is where I have a sound event. It is triggered to make a measurement when it exceeds 85 decibels. And if you count the number of sound events, there's 73 of them. That's 73 trains per day, that particular day. And you'll notice it's all day, all night, afternoon, evening, doesn't matter. And then you can zoom in on that data and read more about it. For example, these are 2 train horn blasts. There's one at 8:44, and here's one at 8:56. 10 minutes apart. They're 10 minutes apart, nose to tail. The trains are coming through here, nose to tail. But the important point here is the sound level measurement peaks well above the 110 dB level. This is my last data chart for you. This is another way of the system captures data, and what it shows is that in a 10-hour period, this is in the afternoon time, it starts to like 4 in the afternoon, goes to like 11 at night, we had 10 events that were over 100 decibel levels. And here's one that's at 113. Remember, 85 dB is where you're starting to get hearing damage. So the bottom line is we need to do something about the train horns. Now there's various mitigation options. We could do things like eliminate the grade crossings, shut the roads down, put barricades up. We could build highway or overpasses or underpasses. That's all very expensive and unattractive. We could install sound barriers along the rails, much like you'd have for long highways. You've seen those. Also very expensive, difficult to maintain. By far, the most feasible and cost-effective option is to establish a quiet zone where the engineers are no longer required to sound the horns. This is a commonly employed option, as Scott mentioned, and it can be done with a process that's already defined by the Department of Transportation. We aren't inventing this quiet zone process. We're just following what other communities have already done. This is a map of the North Ohio area here. It starts in Vermillion over on the left side and extends all the way over to Cleveland Hopkins Airport. It's a span of about 27 miles. The areas that are shown in yellow have already been silenced through quiet zones, silent crossings, things like that. The area that is not yellow is Amherst and Amherst Township. What's that? Yeah, Vermillion has a section here that it is silenced and a couple crossings in town, but they have some tricky crossings that are difficult to treat, to put the treatments on. So going to silent crossings, what do we have to do to make this happen? Again, you can close the crossing. You can go to a 4-quadrant system with 4 sets of gates to block the traffic in both directions. That's expensive. That's probably $250,000 per crossing. You can set up gates with medians where you've got a grass area or a concrete area, or you can go with channelization devices, which are these vertical plastic posts that you've seen in some roads. And it all depends on the type of road and the situation. Do you have intersections? Do you have stoplights? Do you have 4 lanes or 2 lanes? There's various options that are allowed for various types of roads. And we are very fortunate, I should say, in the township and in the city that we can go with the channelization devices. These are readily available. I don't want to oversimplify it, but these can be purchased. They are already pre-approved by the Railroad Association to serve this purpose. And you've seen these types of devices, again, out in front of the Pure gas station and other locations around the county. This has already been done in other cities along that route. This is a picture of Lewis Road in Olmsted Township. Just another small 2-lane road, very similar to what we have in Amherst and the township and other areas. And they have installed the delineators, or channelizers they're sometimes called. It turns out that this particular road looks about the same, but it has almost 10 times the vehicle traffic that we have on the roads in Amherst, Amherst Township. So, and this was done in April of 2012. In 10 years they've been using this without a problem. They also put in a sign that says no train horn. This is Magyar Street. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. It's down in Wellington. This was done a year and a half ago. Again, the delineators were put in the road and signage was added, and that helped to qualify as a safe and a quiet crossing. Now, there's lots of paperwork that has to go around behind this, but basically these are the treatments that need to be done at the sites. So, in conclusion, I don't want to go on too long, but we believe that the the quiet zone is justified. These are noisy crossings, the horns are loud, they're disturbing. We believe we have a rationale to have this as a quiet zone. We've met the criteria, meaning the size of the roads and the traffic counts, things like that. We have engaged a consultant to help us go through the process of getting this established. And we do want to point out that all the crossings we want to keep everything safe. They are going to retain all the same stuff that they've got right now. The bells, the gates, the lights, the markings, the crossbucks, all that stays exactly the same. We are adding additionally these delineators to the system. And every time you add something for safety, you're making it better. And let's see. Now, another reason that we're here. The process of establishing a quiet zone is a complicated one, and the methods that they use work best if you can establish several crossings together. They say you have to have a series of crossings that extends so long, some minimum length, but given all these different factors, now would be the best time for the township and Amherst to work together to establish the quiet zone that serves both our communities. It would be very difficult to go back later and establish one, I believe, on your own. So, the South Dewey Road and Oberlin Road crossings would offer significant reduction to the township residents. We believe it would greatly improve the quality of life here. West Ridge Road, we haven't talked much about that, but that's also in a less populated area that could readily be added to the system too. So you could have several crossings all taken care of as a blanket under the same process. I think that's what we've got, right?
Just one other point I wanted to make before we finish up here is I did want to read from the email that I got from Hans Schneider, the mayor of Wellington. He said, "Scott, good morning. Thank you for reaching out regarding the quiet zones here in the village. The positive impact they have made here in a short time has been noted by many. They certainly have been worth the investment." So what we've tried to do, and the same thing was said by the service director in Olmsted Falls, again, that we would never be able to go back. We get complaints now, and the engineers would continue to honk the horn if they view some sort of a threat. Somebody on the tracks, a deer, whatever it may be, they're still going to honk their horn, and that's the only time that they hear from the citizenry is, why are they blowing their horn? I think we've got the advantage of doing this very economically. The surrounding municipalities or townships have been very helpful and given us a lot of information, including this consultant that the mayor is in contact with and is going to retain. And this guy is working very, very reasonably. This is his last job before he goes into retirement. Also, so we're avoiding a lot of the pitfalls that people are chasing down these rabbit holes only to find out that this doesn't work. What we're proposing, or what the cities and township would be proposing, are exactly what has been done in Wellington, and has been done, as Kurt showed, down the line, North Ridgeville, Olmsted Township, Olmsted Falls, etc. So we think that it's a win from a safety perspective. It improves the safety from a quality of life standpoint. It's quieter, people sleep better, people are working all sorts of different shifts. So that's, I think that's pretty much it, and I will say we're not experts, we're just citizens who think this is a good thing, so we're just up here trying to do our best, but you know, we do have a consultant, that could answer any questions more specifically, but I think from a high level we've got a decent understanding of how the process works. So, to the trustees, any?
All right, well, thanks. I think, Scott, before the trustees ask any questions, I guess I'd really like to hear of this group that's here tonight. Is there anybody that's opposed to the quiet zone here? Okay, if there's someone, would you like to stand up by the microphone and give your reasons for opposition, please?
Basically, my reason is I've lived here 53 years between these three houses. Doesn't bother me. It's a train. It makes noise. There you go.
Okay. Is there anyone else opposed? Okay, and anyone, I know there's a lot of people here supporting that. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on support? Okay, with that, I'm going to open it up to the trustees. David?
A question for you, sir. When you took that measurement, or took those measurements for the decibels, how far were you away from the tracks?
I moved it to various locations, but I would say I'm roughly anywhere from 350 to 500 feet away. That's where my house
And you're
is.
still picking up 100 and some decibels?
Oh, yes, yes. And there are people that live closer to the tracks that I did not pursue that, but no, I'm a couple houses away from the tracks right now.
Anything else, David?
No problems with a quiet zone if it can be done safely. I can only say the number one item right now is safety. I know this crossing here has had multiple fatalities, in particular before the gates went up. So anything that enhances safety, I'm happy for that. I like that. Now, as long as reducing the horns or eliminating the horns can be done without diminishing the safety, fine. But the number one thing should be the safety first. Should be the safety first.
Yeah, this process is carefully controlled by the Federal Railroad Administration. They have a set of risk calculators, risk calculations that they go to, and you must meet their requirements. You must go through the process and prove that we are not impacting safety. In fact, we are making it better by adding a safety feature. And that would be done uniformly across all of these crossings.
All right. You want to defer? Yeah, go ahead. If you want to come up to the mic. We'll get to you in a minute, Danny.
Sorry about not answering sooner. My name's Robert Donofrio. I live over in Rock Creek Run, and I do hear the trains. Real quick, I worked for the fire department for 25 years. Never once have I ever been to an accident involving a train where the people said if the conductor would have just blown his horn, they'd be okay. Never once has it happened in 25 years. It all happens because people don't pay attention, or they try and scoot around the tracks, or they try and beat the train. Never once because the conductor did not blow his horn. So that's not, as far as safety is concerned, it seems like a much better proposal.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Could you come up to the mic because it's being recorded? Thank you.
My name is Sarah Durham. I live right across the street here. I have quite a big property, and the backside of my property does butt up to the railroad tracks. And it is a safety feature. We have horses, we do a lot with animals, and we cannot go to that side of the tracks. It is way too loud. It blows all night and all day to the point where you can't really enjoy that side of the property due to it being a safety feature of someone being hurt on a horse, due to the train comes, I would say 10 feet from my property when you come out of the woods, and that butts right up there, which is very, very unsafe. And it's a nuisance with people turning it around in the driveways and, you know, just a lot with the noise and everything like that. So it'd be nice to see something else done where it is quieted down. There's been lots of nights where we can't sleep. The train actually rattles the house when it goes by. It is an older home, so I can't say it's up to date with everybody else's, but it does rattle the home, and it is very loud, very, very loud. It's to the point where even if the windows are closed, you can't hold a phone conversation. You would have to hold on until the train had went past. So yeah, it's a very big nuisance. It would be nice to see something done, I think, to control that.
All right, well, thank you for standing up. I guess, okay. I guess people have gotten their courage now.
Just needed one.
A little too fast. My name's Mike Shevnesky, and I live on West Ridge. I not only hear the train on West Ridge, I got here from here, in Amherst, and Murray Ridge, 4 of them. So I want to make sure West Ridge is included in this proposal.
Okay. Can you come up to the microphone, please?
No, I was just gonna say, if it's a safety feature, like if the whole thing is safety, if you think of like he was saying, like there's accidents, you know, if it was blocked off where you can't get around or go around with the, what'd you call them?
The delineators?
The tools
yeah.
whatever, you know, those things are called. But if they're in the way, I know we used to live in North Rachel at one time, and with those being there, you can't go around the tracks. You know, that would also stop vehicles from, you know, going around and getting into an accident with the train also. And at night, you know, there's older folks that drive through here. Knowing those bright yellow things are there, you know, they come to a train track, the slow down right before. Like, you know, it's posted, but you never know right where it's going to be. So it also does help knowing that, you know, you're approaching it right here, right now, the slow down. You know what I mean? So I just think that's also a really good safety feature for by the tracks.
All right, thank you. All right, Denny, did you have any comment?
I'm for it. I'm for it, and I do whatever I can to support it.
You have one more, Neil.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm Michael Gargas. I live on Middle Ridge Road myself. And in regard to the horn blasts and their durations, it's wildly variable, because some days the guys will grab the horn and they'll blow it from one crossing all the way to the next. Other times it'll just be short toots, which isn't so bad, but it's just awful, the amount of noise they produce, especially for anybody here who's hearing impaired. It just makes your hair stand on end sometimes. And it's 10 times worse in wintertime when there's no foliage on the trees to help dampen some of the sound. So I'm all for quieting this zone, and I don't know why it hasn't been done years ago, especially seeing that the surrounding areas have already done it. I mean, it makes no sense not to.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And as far as the sounding, just so you're aware, there is a federal standard, but as Kurt's done in his measurements and shared, not all the engineers comply with it, and sometimes they just say they'll go longer, hit it for a longer period of time. As far as the timing, why it wasn't done years ago, was it 2005 that the Federal Railway Administration, I believe, started with the quiet zones? And initially, most of them were the quad gates. It really hasn't been that long that you even had the opportunity to put in quiet zones. And there are some things that I know Kurt and Scott didn't go through all the detail here, but even to establish a quiet zone, a public entity has to be the lead. In this case, it's wonderful that we actually had two individuals take the lead as citizens to try and get this done. What they're doing is they've approached first the mayor and the city of Amherst, who then contacted the township to get in touch with these gentlemen that, hey, well, you guys look at this too, because it's not just the city, it impacts it as it comes over the township. When people get involved, that's what really helps. But that's why perhaps it wasn't done years ago. To David's point, we at least got the crossing guards put up because we have had several fatalities just at this particular intersection. And it's just a matter of time that we'll have another one, because anybody that gets stuck here sees the people that drive around these things all the time. People just, their patience isn't there, and they think, hey, I can get around those gates, and they do, but it's only a matter of time before somebody does not. So this might get some people upset because it's not going to be as easy to get around, since you have to put a 100-foot length measured from the gate to put, as Scott called it, corralling them in there. To the young lady's point over here, as far as visibility of the railroad, these will all have reflectors on them, so it will improve the visibility of you coming up to that crossing and where your lane is. And as David indicated, number one thing is safety, but the other things are going to be the quality of life here. I know there's been, I've been informed about all the scuttlebutt on Facebook that, hey, you moved next to railroad, so, you know, quit your belly aching and complaining, trains make noise. And we've heard the same thing when people ask about noise walls along the turnpike and getting down the traffic noise. And if we were talking about something that's going to cost us millions of dollars, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. That's, the township doesn't have those deep pockets, and I don't expect the city of Amherst does either. But since the Federal Railway Administration provides the opportunity of some lower cost solutions now while not degrading safety, that's why we're looking at it now, and particularly with these gentlemen coming forward here. We also know what's probably impacting people, as they pointed out, when COVID hit, and technology might have eventually driven us to this, but it's obvious that it was expedited with COVID of more people working at home. And particularly those that are in customer service or relationship business or have to talk about technical details, and they try to open up their windows, which the CDC says better ventilation, that's what you need to do to get this airborne virus diluted. Well, it's hard to have those conversations when the train's coming through. Even at our township, prior to this hall edition, we would literally stop our meetings, we still occasionally do, when the train comes by. And this hall was structured with an added buffer room over here and insulated to at least reduce the train noise coming in. We used to meet in a smaller room over here. And I can tell you before this edition, it was terrible.
That's not all horn noise, that's a lot of just train going by.
Yeah, well, we're not going to stop the train noise itself. They're still going to roll through. But the big thing we need to get now is a handle on the cost and what that cost is going to be. Though the process appears simple, what's going to complicate this is we've got to have Brownhelm Township involved, because the crossing kind of straddles between Brownhelm and Amherst on the west side. Then as we start moving to the east, the West Ridge involves Elyria, the city of Elyria, Lorraine County Engineer's Office, and potentially Elyria Township trustees. I think with the roadway being the responsibility, the northern part of West Ridge being Lorraine County Engineer and the southern part being the city of Elyria, we may just have those two entities. If they're both willing, and right now the county engineer appears willing, is that we will get West Ridge included. And as Kurt mentioned, if we don't do it now, odds of getting it done in the future are pretty slim. For a couple of reasons. One, you do have a minimum half-mile length of quiet zone. They don't allow you to just, which to me seems ridiculous, we'll just add that intersection on later if they're unwilling to do it now. They don't allow that. So you can't take the length of your existing quiet zone and just add another piece. So they would have to establish their own, and then what the Federal Railway Administration determines the supplemental safety measures is it might force them to put in a much more expensive safety measure to cover or to meet the quiet zone requirement if they even have the length, which they probably would not. So now's the time. As far as the lower density that they were showing at that particular rail crossing, well, it's low density now. You do have, I think that Stanley Works now, the old Nelson Stud plant that's there, but the city of Elyria has a new development going in called Ridgewater. They just sold a few homes, but that's going to be a pretty large development going into that section. As you see in Elyria Township, that's all open land in that area. Someday it will be developed, so the time to do this is now. We sent the communication to the city of Elyria. We'll wait and hear what they say. But I think working with the county and including the city of Amherst, Amherst Township, that'll keep their cost, because of the economy of scale, also much lower. So we'll see. We can't promise it till we get all the entities involved in here as far as how long this quiet zone would go. But as they showed on that one slide, the existing quiet zones, it'd be nice to continue that with the void in between, which is our communities. Okay? So is there anything else, Kurt or Scott, you'd like to bring up? I I think our next thing is trying to get costs and get all those other communities involved, and I know you're going to do a similar presentation in the city.
I think the mayor has been great in working with us on that, and as you said, Trustee Linsky, the cost seems to be reasonable, and so I think it's a process that we all put together. We can get safer and
Thanks to the mayor for his support. He's been great helping us along with this, connecting us up and getting the whole process started. And thank you guys for having us come in. We appreciate all your time and hearing us out.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Well, we'll give you guys a chance. You can either stay for the rest of the meeting, or this is your opportunity to clear out now. So we'll take a 5-minute recess to give people an opportunity to get out. Okay, we're going to return from recess to the regular meeting here at 8:10 p.m. Go to the next item, correspondence. Chris?
I have none.
Okay, David?
I have nothing to bring forward at this time.
Denny?
Nothing to bring forward.
Okay, I do have the one item in your packet regarding the communication with Lorraine County Engineer's Office, specifically Bob Kleiber and Roseanne Denega, and then also Pete Zawick, and then Chris Howard is from Bramhall Engineering. This in regards to the Sandstone Parkway Spline Road for the Sandstone development, and a concern the county engineer had for the winter maintenance with the traffic islands. There were two things. One, they were concerned with some of their dual axle trucks running over those traffic islands or having difficulty when the snow's heavy and visibility is difficult, and causing damage to those traffic islands. But I then discussed with Bob Kleiber, the trustees have discussed here before, is that with the county taking responsibility for that road, and eventually Oberlin Road, once that road is completed, is that we will have an agreement between the county and Amherst Township as far as specific responsibilities, because we've thought, since we travel those roads anyway to get to the other developments, both Oberlin Road and the Spline Road, is that we would go ahead and drop our plow and plow them. We'll probably be there before the county. We have single axle trucks, maybe because if we hit a mailbox or cause a problem here, we hear it from our residents immediately, and they know how to reach us. It's a little more difficult with the county being larger and a number of drivers to get a hold of them. We can work out as far as an agreement of the amount of salt applied per mile, and with the county, they can cover the material costs, and we'll drop the salt also as we go through. And though this doesn't show Bob Kleiber's response, I summarized the discussion we had since it was a phone conversation, and Bob's already responded, yes, that of the 12 points that I put down there, that yes, that is what we discussed and agreed to. So I just wanted to bring this forward for the trustees so they're aware of this. The other thing Bob wasn't aware of is there is a diameter in there, 12-foot diameter within those roundabouts that is going to be planted with vertical height, because, and that's been discussed at some of these zoning commission meetings with the developer, because these are intended to be traffic calming devices. We don't want people flying down through there, yet we want traffic to keep moving. And in addition to putting the roundabout there, you have to have the vertical height of some vegetation or some other mechanism so that people can't see far down where they want to press on the gas. If you can't see what's coming, you're going to slow down. And so he wasn't aware of that. He felt more comfortable with it. The reason it got brought up is they're to the point of approving the roughly 3/4 of length that had come through the township zoning process earlier. I think it was just last month. And so with that, he was more comfortable in going forward with this. But details will be worked out. I don't know if anyone has any questions on those. This was emailed out earlier. I'll certainly attempt to answer those. Okay. Seeing none then, we're going to move on to reports, and Sheriff's not here. I'm going to drop right to zoning then. Sam?
Permits, we have 11 permits this month. One was light industrial. We're up to 15 new homes year to date.
Where was the light industrial at?
9109 Levitt Road, mini storage.
Okay.
Are there any questions for Sam?
No, I have none.
Okay, and I know it's under the complaints also, but Sam, do you want to address the public notice here for the property maintenance complaint?
Yes, we have 2 properties owned by the same person, 323 Deepwood and 8935 Oberlin. We've sent them many letters. Remy has posted, gosh, at least 3 signs, postings at the building. So I spent some time with Tom Mangan last week, and to continue with the process, I had to get this trustees to sign the sign, so I got to post the signs on each property again and take a picture, time-stamped and dated. And then we give them 14 days, and if they don't comply by then, if I'm understanding it correctly, then we have to draft a letter to Tom to get him involved to continue on. I'm trying to avoid the actual cutting of grass and removal of junk vehicles as long as we can, I guess.
Okay, so is this both grass and junk vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
They attempted, it's probably been, back when I started, about a month to cut the grass, but there's still, the houses are engulfed with vegetation. They've got junk vehicles all over on both properties.
Okay.
They're pretty bad, and we've gotten many, many complaints.
Okay, well then with that, and Chris, I'll give these to you here shortly, but so you can type this up. I'm going to make a motion that pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.871, the Board of Trustees of Amherst Township has determined that junk motor vehicles are parked and stored upon the properties at 323 Deepwood and 8935 Oberlin Road, in addition to tall grass and other property maintenance issues within Amherst Township, and that the property owner is ordered to immediately remove said items and take care of the property maintenance.
Yeah, I'll take it. You have it written down, right?
Yep.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All right, roll call then, Chris.
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
All right, Sam, you're all set then to post those. Is there anything else?
Thank you. No.
Okay, move on. Fire Prevention Officer, Chris Neihart.
No report.
All right, thank you. Roads, Parks, and Cemetery, Superintendent Smarsh.
I don't have much. Everything's been running smooth with mowing and trimming. We did complete and pour back 2 catch basins as of last Thursday. So this Thursday, the cones will be able to be removed. I have 4 more catch basins that I've called in for OOPS locations. So they'll be cleared by tomorrow morning. We can start to jackhammer them out. And just so it's out there that 2 of these catch basins is in Copper Creek, which were precast, but the tops of them, you know, where the adjustments happened, gave way, settled the concrete. You know, it's I'm going to get on top of it before it gets any worse.
Right, and
How are the catch basins themselves? Are they okay?
The catch basins themselves are in good condition.
We just gotta readjust the tops.
Correct.
okay, and none of these were covered by our mini grant.
No.
Okay.
The mini grant wasn't on the catch basin.
Can you send me the details as far as what the costs were, where the catch basins were, who performed the work? I know some of them being housed, but the cost estimates?
Yes.
Okay. And we can discuss it later, but if you can get all that information to me, and it'd help if it's electronic too, because I'll have to put it together in a document for the county.
That's what I'll do. I'll email it to you tomorrow.
All right. I was at the Lorraine County Stormwater Advisory Committee meeting last Thursday, and then at the Lorraine County Township Association the same day. And based on discussions at both of those meetings, there may be funding to cover that, even though this is after the fact. I don't know if they'll cover it since it's after the fact, but that was brought up at both meetings. Okay? With two different funding potentials.
Sure. I talked with Don at the herbicide training, and I was talking with him about, say, giving up on the mini grant because of all the trouble that I've gone through to try and receive signatures. And another one is one of the property owners, Linda and I have tried many different ways to try and contact the property owner, and everything's all been sent back and or we can't get in touch. And we've even tried to go through a lawyer, that's part of the property owners because it's for sale, and there's just been no luck. But where the pipe was supposed to be replaced, they live on Broadway, and we've tried, I've talked personally on their porch, and they do not want to sign for a temporary easement. Now, Don did mention that there are some other ways to go around it. We're still clunking our heads, so it hasn't been like...
Yeah, eventually that has to be done because that affects all the people living over there. I mean, that's their outlet.
Correct. And the problem that the property owner is having with that is they want us to go to the outskirts of the property and then meet back up. It's so flat down there. I've taken some shots, and there's no way of extending it to try and get it around.
Okay.
So, and there is no, say, real easement. That was the old clay tile that was put in.
Right.
It's one of those kind of situations. But I didn't want to go and try and push the issue too much and, get this all into a crazy situation when maybe just step back and punt on this mini grant part of it. But Don still says, well, let's try one more way, shape, or form. I've been in contacts with him. We're gonna try something.
Well, that's a good approach. Similar to what Sam talked about in property maintenance. You hope people will work with you, and especially when it impacts many of their neighbors. But we can change it. But I want now specifically the catch basins also for additional here. Okay, and then we can talk about that and putting together some documentation, but we have to have it done. The end of August is the deadline, but I'd like to get it done well before that.
Sure.
So, and August is next week. So
yeah, I can have that information for you on, what it was taken for those two and what it would take for the next one, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try and call you tomorrow to discuss that, or I'll talk with Linda and have her relay it. If I don't get it, put in an email then, Kevin.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Kevin?
No, I have none.
Nothing for Kevin, but maybe to you and Denny. What's this about a bridge replacement on Oberlin Road, 0.55 miles north of 113? The only bridge I can think of is a bridge near your house, Neil, and that was done not too awful long ago. You know anything about
it's
that?
been done within the last 22 years, I know that. But it's been a while, because it was real nice riding bikes on Oberlin Road when it was closed off. other than they did the railroad tracks at the same time, and so then we were concerned with fire and EMS service. And I know that there was consideration of actually coming down along these railroad tracks to get to the homes in there, but that was shared at the meeting. You weren't able to attend, David. There was a notice from Lorraine County engineers on that. The survey crews have already been down there. There are actually 2 bridges between my home and State Route 113. That one's not in front of my home. It's down further, you know, there's none in front of my home. This
No,
is
no, no,
further
that,
to
I call,
the south.
yeah.
But it's the one
couple hundred
closest
feet.
to my
Yeah, the
home
one
of
near
the
you,
2.
that's what I mean.
The county will actually be replacing that bridge next year.
Replacing it completely?
That's what the indication is. If you
Well,
have any specific questions,
yeah, talk to
I would
Rob
talk
on
to
that,
the
but-
county. But the way we found out this early is they had asked if we would include it in our newsletter to inform the residents. So we'll decide which newsletter we put it in. It's already been put up on our website. The county will put it in the local newspapers, but as you're aware, so few people get the newspaper anymore, that doesn't get out. And he's aware that we've got a website, there's communication through social media and the newsletter. So that's how we found out about it this early.
But that is the bridge you're talking
That's
about,
the bridge.
Heises and Dalmar.
That's the
Dalmage
bridge
right
they're
there.
referring to, correct.
All right, all
Okay.
right, that's, okay, I'll talk to him. Travels.
Okay, and Linda's not here. I'm going to have no report here for Lorco. As far as the stormwater management, I did several things here. I attended the SWAC meeting just last Thursday, what was Thursday here? That would have been the 21st, on July 21st, and they're still moving forward with the projects, but the county is still trying to determine how to leverage additional funds in a combination between funds from the Stormwater District, funds from ARPA funds, however that is. So they still don't have the MOUs put together. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is the Bat House Ditch project we have that will start from Middle Ridge Road and come up to the Lakeshore Railway line where we had last finished the project with the Bat House Reach might get delayed till next year if we don't get that moving soon, because we can't put this out to bid till we know the project is approved. And so they've kind of approved the project, but they haven't submitted the MOUs yet.
That's under phase 2.
Pardon?
That's under phase 2, not Lorco, right?
Yeah, this is under phase 2.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're off Lorco. I had no report for Lorco. The other item in the phase 2 is I spoke with Commissioner Matt Lundy. It actually would have been on Friday the 22nd in regards to the 2 grants that we turned in for the county ARPA grants. And, you know, though they were turned in on behalf of the township, realized the majority of funding we're asking for is their county projects. And since those ARPA funds specifically say they can be used for sanitary sewers, we're asking the county that instead of putting the burden on our residents that are going to be forced to connect, and that's 28 residents, 8 of them being from Elyria Township, 20 from Amherst Township that will be forced to connect at, you know, roughly 10 grand apiece, is you can use ARPA funds for that. And then also, instead of using the TIF dollars to fund the sanitary extension from Hampshire Farms to the State Route 2 overpass on Oberlin Road, is again, use ARPA funds, which can pay for that, and let the taxes for our schools, township, mental health, you know, all the children's services, whatever voted levies that are out there, that those monies go to where people voted those monies to go to. And since the TIF has to stay in place because of the water lines, roadway, and the sanitary extension that the county put in going south from Hampshire Farms along Overland Road, realize ARPA funds can't be used for debt reduction. Since they already did those, they have to keep some TIF dollars in place. Our recommendation was take a smaller TIF instead of roughly $250,000 for sewers, $40,000 to match. So with the township's Public Works Commission grant application that we have to have done by this September, and probably actually by next month, August, to get it in on time, so that we improve the odds of that grant request being approved, particularly since we put off that resurfacing over 4 years now, waiting for these sewers to get done, which are supposed to be completed late this summer or early fall. In addition to covering where you see the road settling and what's happening there, so that the damage that's been done to the roads from all the heavy equipment going in there, that we can get that done. There was then, Commissioner Lundy said he needed to talk with Don Romankak from Community Development. I then spoke with both of them last Thursday at the Lorraine County Township Association meeting. It does appear it's going forward, and since then, Commissioner Lundy did send me a email saying that he's directed Dan Petticourt of the prosecutor's office to prepare appropriate resolution. So it appears we will get something approved in those 2 grants, but based on the discussions with Commissioner Lundy and Don Romankak of Community Development, it may not go exactly the way we wrote it, but because they're looking at, again, how they can leverage other funds and which funds give them the most flexibility. So I don't know what the final version will be. I know they did release their agenda for tomorrow's July 27th Commissioners meeting, and it's not on that agenda. So hopefully next week or the week after, there'll be some resolution presented before the Board of Commissioners to make a decision on this, and we'll know exactly which direction they want to go on that. So that'll be the final report there on the Phase 2, Chris. And now we'll move on to the complaints, and I think we've got just the 2 here with action. One was the dust and whatnot, the 2 complaints that came in on the sandstone development. We were waiting on it. I was told there was going to be a 3rd one, but I'm not aware of a 3rd one coming in yet. And it could be because in the contact with the developers, as we reported at the last meeting, they finished up what they termed the clearing of the trees for the north section of that development. So they would be stopped, but we don't know when they come in. They still have some more clearing they're going to do in the south. I don't know if they're going to do it at the same location or a different location, but we'll receive that. I only contacted one of the residents, that would have been Mike Britta, because both of these residents that put in the complaint are immediate neighbors there. I haven't heard anything back from Mike, but I did give him my phone number. I know, Sam, this is assigned to you, being zoning, but you're hearing all the details, so I'm sure it'll probably be quiet until, you know, they pick up again and start off back there. I thought I heard sawing going on today, but there was no equipment on Overland Road, so I don't know if that was just a resident back there or if they had something moved over to 58 area again. And then, Sam, there's a new one. There's a copy in your packet. I think you've already got this. This is a complaint about property maintenance at 7175 Deer Run.
Yeah, this is the 3rd one. I already went by once No one was there, and it is bad. Left a card. I planned on going by tomorrow. I'm going to use one of our signs kind of in letter form, and if no one's there, I'll put it in the door. I'll give them another 7 days before I post a big pink sign on their lawn.
Okay.
I tried calling, and the number is disconnected that I was able to get for the owner. It's Husty, Joanne Husty.
Okay.
So, we'll see. I'm on it.
Okay.
It is
Good
bad,
deal.
though. And unfortunately, houses on each side of it are up for sale. So the one lady's having a real hard time selling her house.
Oh,
So that's why I'm trying.
I can imagine why she wants to get it going. All right, well, thank you. As far as the trustees, knowing that we were going to have this presentation this evening, I took off all unfinished business, but if there's something you need to report on areas of responsibility, by all means, now would be the time.
No, I have nothing.
I would just like to say that I did go to the consortium meeting last Wednesday, and it did come out that the fuel surcharge is going up to $5.76 a quarter. That's the equivalent of $1.92 a month. That's due to the increase in fuel costs, obviously. Hopefully, if prices stabilize, that maybe next quarter it'll stay the same or maybe drop if they drop some. Mine is 25-cent increments.
Right.
Right now, 25 cents isn't a whole lot as far as movement in the price because the price is so high. So it'll go down some, but that should have been reflected in the last set of bills, I guess, after the 30th of June.
Good, Dave. Well, our bills are still less today than they were 7 years ago. So it's hard to complain. You know? What other commodity do you purchase you can say that about?
$5.76.
Starting in
All right. Well, we'll move on then to new business. There is one item here that's going to require action. You've got a prepared resolution here authorizing the Board of Trustees chairperson to take all actions necessary to participate in the One Ohio opioid settlement. Just so everyone's aware, only the elected officials, and I believe in Linda Ashley's copy, received all the documentation, including the two correspondence, one from July 12th, one from July 19th from the Ohio Township Association, the two participation agreements that need to be signed and returned, one from the distributor settlement, the other one from the Janssen settlement, and then the full Ohio, One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding. Probably the real key there is knowing what are approved purposes, because these funds have a dedicated purpose, and they will be distributed over 18 years. There's probably, at this point, we'd have to go through the prosecutor. I don't know that there is any specific expense that the township deals with directly that they could use these funds. The only question would be when between the fire service and EMS service, when they respond and actually use Narcan, is between the material and labor cost and, and the cost of the run, if that can or cannot be included. Just reading at it from a layman's term, I'm of the opinion it probably can't, since it says it has to be forward-looking, but that's really something we'd have to ask of the prosecutor. If it turns out that, we can't use it directly, we do have the option here of using it for services such as there's the proposed new crisis receiving center here that will actually be located right on the edge of our township in the city of Lorraine. Where Middle Ridge and Broadway kind of transition over. It could go there, it could go directly to Licata Way, potentially, but again, this is a question for the prosecutor, is the Sheriff Dare program, since one of the components is prevention and education, and that program is done usually at the elementary level to inform the kids and warn the kids of some of the dangers, whether they're prescription drugs or illicit drugs. But we can get into that later. There's still a question if we'll receive the first payment, roughly $1,500 for 2022. The reason I say that is because the state started that dispersion this past week. What the attorneys originally told the Ohio Township Association is any community receiving less than $10,000 in their installment payment did not have to sign these participation agreements. But that then changed. And I've been in discussion with the Ohio Township Association. I've been in discussion with the Attorney General's office for the state of Ohio, multiple conversations back and forth in the past week. I can tell you a big shout out to Senator Nathan Manning. My original communication with the Attorney General's office was that I would receive an email reply within 5 business days. Well, that didn't work because it's like I need time to put a resolution together, present it to this board before the meeting, get it printed, and then take action tonight. Senator Nathan called the Attorney General's office, and they called me back immediately after that. It still took several calls because they had to dig into it. The individual that contacted me couldn't really answer the question just as the first individual couldn't. They just weren't sure. And what I can tell you now, between the OTA and the Attorney General's office, they still aren't sure on 2 things. One is, will we receive that payment that we should have received in 2022 based on the allocation? And as they've said right now, we might not, or we could receive it this year. Another option is perhaps they'll give us twice as much next year if they can't disperse it this year. I said, okay, let's go with the 2 of the 3 things you mentioned to me sound okay, but one of them that we won't get it doesn't. Because the opioid issue affects everybody. And our community shouldn't be penalized because of something we didn't receive any information on, nor the association that represents us at the state didn't receive that information. And I said, where's the money go if we don't receive it? Because this settlement, the money goes to the state, so who gets the money? Well, again, they weren't sure. They thought it goes in the pot. If you read through the MOU, it's kind of squishy on that area as to where it goes. But just so you're aware, not one township in Lorain County received that notice. So none of them have signed up for it. But based on the discussion I had with the Ohio Attorney General's office, they recommended everybody fill it out, send in those participation agreements. So I have communicated with Lorain County Township Association, sent our resolution in, and said, you know, each township will have to adjust it. It was even recommended, the MOU says that any community that was received less than $500 a year wouldn't receive their money directly. It would go to Lorain County Board of Commissioners so that, you know, it could more effectively be used as the terminology that's used. And that may be the case, but those townships definitely, if they don't receive it, probably want to talk with our county commissioners as to how to use that, particularly the southern townships that have school systems and run their own EMS and their own fire service might have a need for that. The other thing is this is still ongoing. And in discussion with the OTA and the Attorney General's office, there could be additional settlements, and though you may not be receiving $500 a year today, is that can change. And so you might, and some of them are right at that level. So if they don't have the participation agreement in, they won't receive anything. But if they put it in, if it bumps above that threshold, then the money would go directly to the community. And it'd be the community's decision how to use that funding. So I'm going to make the motion that, let me get to the right spot here, that the Amherst Township chairperson is authorized to execute the One Ohio Opioid Distributor Settlement Participation Agreement and the Janssen Settlement Participation Agreement and take all actions necessary to participate in the One Ohio settlement. The rest is boilerplate, but that'll be my motion.
Second.
Any other discussion?
None.
Okay.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
And the number on that, Chris?
7/16/22.
7/16?
16.
16, right?
16, 1/6.
And Chris, just so you're aware of those two settlement agreements, there are 3 locations they have to be emailed to. You know, we've got, and I've got those included in one of the whereases here, but in that participation agreements, in the 2 of them, I have to put down the community, the authorized official, which will be the chairperson. I'll put in my name. I needed a phone number. I'm putting in the township's phone number. For the email address, though, I'm going to put in the fiscal office,
Okay.
or the Amherst Township FO.gmail.com.
Okay.
Figuring that they probably need that more in the communication and the dispersal of funds. So I thought that was more appropriate than giving them my email here. But you know, if you receive anything in communication, just as you always do, just
Forward
blast it out, yeah, and we can get this taken care of. But thank you. Okay, is there any other new business?
No, sir.
All right, our next regular meeting will be 7 o'clock on Tuesday, August 9th. Kevin, at this time, no work session, but we've got between ARPA grant, mini grant, OPWC, we may have to have some meeting. I don't know that we'll need all the trustees yet, but eventually we will before we finalize those. That's all going to be bunched up here real fast. Okay? All right, any audience concerns? Any need for an executive session?
No, sir.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Abraham?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.